gets to hear these.
Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Creighton.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. We're recording this on Christmas Eve, so I hope you all had a Merry Christmas by the time you heard this, and we can tell you that her husband Nate is already having a good time because he was, jumping up and down to the music. So Christmas Eve is a beautiful time. It really is. And Jody Lynn has her sweater on. It's got the Christmas tree with the lights.
That's right.
Yeah. We're
Very
in festive, jovial, celebratory mode, which is a great thing.
That's right. No better time than today.
That's right. Yeah. And it fits in nicely with the topic that I came up with for today, because we don't have a guest today, which is kind of unusual. Although we've had a few of those lately, which has been nice.
Mm-hmm.
We get to talk just one-to-one. But I've been having a number of insights recently. I figured this is a good time to kind of bring them out, particularly around the holidays, because holidays are supposed to be festive, but they can also be stressful for many people for many different reasons. And while we like to think of the holidays as being happy, they aren't always.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, that just kind of reinforced for me, this is a good topic to bring up. Now, we've talked about happiness on a number of different occasions, in a number of different ways, different conversations with guests and so forth. And one of the most common things that we hear, I know you've heard it, I've heard it many times, is that happiness is fleeting. That it's kind of like falling in love. You fall in love, and 3 months later that part is done. Now you're on to the rest of your life. And to be honest, that's something, Jody Lynn, that I've always been resistant to.
Mm-hmm.
And I from the way you're nodding, I think you've kind of been resistant to it as well.
Yeah, that feels gross.
Well, not only does it feel gross, I don't think it's accurate.
I don't think so.
Or to put it another, it's accurate under certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to those circumstances in just a moment. But the belief that accompanies that is that because of this belief that happiness is fleeting, therefore you can't count on it.
Mm.
You can enjoy it when it comes along, but don't count on it and don't look for it all the time. And you're shaking your head, and you and I are on the same page here. Like that doesn't work very well.
What a sad existence.
It's not much of an existence, but it's one that many, 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 many people settle for, because they think it's the best that they can get. The thought that keeps coming back to me over and over again is something that we've all heard before. I know you've advocated and espoused it before, and I have as well. It's that happiness comes from within.
Yes.
Happiness is not an external event, it's an internal event. And more precisely, it comes from the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the reason I was thinking about this and giving this a lot of thought is that we humans tend to get confused about the role of the heart and the role of the head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in U.S. history, one of our earliest famous presidents, Thomas Jefferson, wrote an entire letter about the head and the heart, because he was having this thing. He was over in France. He was an ambassador, and he had met a woman over there who he was close to. There were questions about whether they actually had an affair. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But he had this thing going on, like, did he go with his head or did he go with his heart where she was concerned? That was why he wrote his piece. And that's a theme that has played out in human history. Lots and lots of people have gotten stuck on that very question. Is the head in charge, or is the heart in charge? I think one of the main reasons for that is we usually experience life from our head. We think like we're looking through our eyes. That's where our orientation is. Our orientation is in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So that must be who we are. We are what's in our head.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you and I both agree that's not who we are. Who we are is really what's in our heart.
Yes.
Well, that's quite a source of confusion.
Absolutely. And you think about like it's a broad conversation because there's a lot of things in our head, whether it's programming, belief systems, all of these things. So are you, your past and the things that you've said and you've done, are you the things that you've learned by osmosis or otherwise? If you're coming from the place of the head, then yes, but I don't think that's accurate, or I don't think it's the whole picture.
It's not the whole picture, but there are pieces to it that complicate that picture.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have talked about it recently in that I had somebody I was involved with a few months ago who was confusing the head and the heart. And she had actually come to the conclusion that her heart was her fake persona and her head was the real one, when in fact it was the other way around.
The opposite, yeah.
But that's fairly common. I think a lot of people, especially depending on the level of disconnect from their own hearts, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to come to that same conclusion, that the heart is not really who I am. Who I really am is in my head, when in fact it's the other way around. So it's not terribly surprising that not only do we get confused, but also that we have trouble with the idea of happiness being a permanent thing. Because if we're living in our heads and we're not living in the hearts, it is going to be ephemeral. It is going to be very limited in terms of how much we experience it.
Absolutely.
Right?
And we don't experience it from the head. That's a perception.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I think too, as we age, people get more jaded, if you will. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from too, is that, oh, well, I followed my heart and it got me into trouble, or led me down a path, I wasn't thinking clearly. I had, rose-colored glasses on, or there's all of these stigmas that we have in our society today that talk about going from the heart in that way as being dangerous or potentially dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah. And that ties into the idea of having a broken heart, whether it's through a romance, through a death, through any, like a breakup, something like that. I mean, there are a lot of different ways that it can happen, but we feel like that it's the heart that got injured.
Yeah.
Interesting point of fact, though, it's the head that got injured.
Yeah.
Not the heart. The confusion's in the head when something like that happens. It's not, the heart isn't confused at all.
Yeah, and we created the meaning.
Yeah. So isn't that fascinating? When we're feeling really bad, when we're feeling out of alignment with ourselves, when we're feeling not happy, feeling sad, angry, depressed, whatever, we're not feeling that in the heart.
No.
We don't notice that, though.
No. Well, I think because we're so disconnected from our heart and our body. Completely. Because we're taught that the logical mind is the one that you should go with.
Right.
It'll keep you safe.
That's right.
When that's what your mind's job is. To keep you safe, literally. So yes, but the programming is archaic.
And inaccurate.
Inaccurate, yeah. And not often revisited.
No, not revisited at all. And no attention given to it. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up as a topic today, because I've been giving much more attention, particularly in the last few years, to my heart over my head, which was a new experience for me and took some practice and wasn't easy. And I'm still struggling with it at times.
Yeah.
But going back to that same relationship I mentioned that we lasted for about a month and a half. In the midst of that one, she told me at one point that I was the kindest man she'd ever met. And that caught my attention. First of all, it surprised the heck out of me. Because, I mean, there was a time in my life where no one would have said that.
Look at how much you've grown.
This was a very new thing for me. But I also realized why it had happened. It was because of all this work I'd done on myself over the last 15 years, particularly work on how I feel about myself.
You finally started to be kind to yourself.
I started being kind to myself.
Yeah.
And that's what's been sticking with me lately. Realizing the kinder you are to yourself, you don't have to even try to be kind to anybody else.
And I think
it's kind of astonishing.
It is.
Because we think that there's a lot of work that's involved in being kind. But it's only work because we're not being kind to ourselves. If we're kind to ourselves, there's no work at all. You don't even have to think about it.
And that's what a lot of people talk about, a law of attraction. It starts on the inside, and you change the inside and the outside changes. And that's so difficult for people to understand, because how is my outer world changing when I've done nothing out there?
Right.
But you are the reverberation of your energy. So if you're being kind to yourself and that becomes a habit, then you're going to be kind to the neighbor, the person you meet at the grocery store, all of these people outside of you without even really thinking. And that's the general essence of what you're putting out there into the world. And I think that this really ties into the statement you're making at the beginning, where most people think that happiness is fleeting or doesn't last. But I think that we're so confused with, I need to get this to be happy, whatever this is, like if you're in a relationship, they need to pay attention to me. They need to, I don't know, pat me on the head or whatever it is that you think that should be done. And when I'm realizing more and more in all things, and this is a part of the abundance consciousness teaching, is that the more you give yourself these things, the more it shows up in your external world. So if you're in belief that happiness is fleeting, you're tying it, in my opinion, you're tying it to something that might be fleeting, a gift. Okay, it makes you feel happy for a moment or something like that. But true happiness, the essence of happiness, doesn't come from that gift. It comes from the meaning you gave it. They loved me. They thought about me. Whatever was in your head, they care about me. I'm a priority. All of those meanings that you created and judgments that you created are creating this belief, this is happiness.
Right.
So in reality, if you start changing the meaning of things and start maybe even broadening it, that glance from the stranger and that smile, they care about me, changing the meanings of the things that are around us, I think that you can have lasting happiness.
I think you can too. And I know we both have experiences, so that's how we know that it's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing like real evidence to actually get you there, right?
Exactly. And I mean, the caveat on this is that there's a difference between happiness and plastic happy. This Instagram 30-second perception that your life is always great and always beautiful and never flawless and all of these things, like that's not real.
No.
And the most confusing lesson that I think I've received about feelings is that happiness and pain can exist in the exact same moment.
Great point. Very, very good point. Because that doesn't seem on the surface like that would be true. And yet it happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
It happens a lot more often than people realize.
And I think people beat themselves up over it. They have a loss of somebody in their life and, I'm not allowed to feel happy anymore. That's not true. I look at feelings like a color spectrum, that all of the colors exist in that one color. So happiness and sorrow, for example, can exist and do exist at the exact same time.
And I think it's actually one of the things that are confusing when you first realize that you're experiencing both. When you experience both happiness and sadness at the same time, we actually have a word for it, bittersweet. But we treat it as something that's unusual. It actually isn't unusual. What's unusual is that we're noticing it, that we're paying attention and we're aware of both aspects at the same time. That's the unusual.
Yeah.
And in the process of all this, it also started to occur to me. We know that if you work on your own kindness, if you're kinder to yourself, because you made mention of how we can beat ourselves up, and we're really good at that. We're
Oh yeah.
experts at beating the crap out of ourselves. Anybody who's ever thought about it realizes, yeah, I do this to me all the time.
Yeah.
And the more that we can learn not to do that, to be less perfectionistic, to be more accepting of, well, I did the best I could, that kind of thing. That's when you get to the point where almost anything that you do ends up being kinder toward everybody else because you're being kinder toward yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized the same rule applies to happiness. The more that you spend time being happy within yourself, regardless of what's going on outside, the more happiness you experience outside.
Mm-hmm.
Which is exactly the opposite of what we think is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've convinced ourselves that's selfish or something.
Well, or positive, because the only thing that can make me happy is when something from outside makes me happy.
That's right. A person, a thing, a place.
And then what that also reminded me of is, in truth, nothing outside actually makes us happy. What they do is they trigger happiness, but they don't actually cause happiness. Happiness only gets caused in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get caused externally at all.
Mm-mm. I agree.
And that's going to throw us off big time.
Absolutely. Because what does that mean? How do you get it? What do you do?
And how do you make sense of the fact that you've been spending all this time trying to be externally happy?
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people go through that in their spiritual journey. Like they call it the ascension journey, where they're like, okay, now screw the material world. I don't want anything. I don't need anybody. And then, kind of close off. And I think that there's a happy medium there too. But you're right. It all starts within.
So here's an interesting little experiment to do. If you're curious about what we're talking about here, you can just try for one day being a little kinder to yourself and just focusing on how can I find happiness within myself? And then what happens over the next day or two, especially if you have interactions with other people.
Yeah. And what a perfect time to do it.
Oh yeah.
Around the holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely. Great time to do it.
Yeah.
There's actually no bad time to do it. They're all good times, but yeah.
Exactly. The next best time to start is right now.
That's right. But what I also have done is I've actually been trying this lately. I've been experimenting with it. I've been getting out more. I've been making a point to get out because I realize this AI project I'm working on can just suck me right in. And if I don't get away from it, I'll just be dying in front of the computer because I want to get this AI thing done. But I have been getting out more, and I've been experimenting with doing exactly this. Just like there was an event that I went to recently where we went to a theater, and there was a singer who was singing Christmas tunes rewritten with a modern feel, jazz feel, and all that kind of stuff. And it was really nice. It was a beautiful experience. So I kind of took advantage of it, and I said, all right, well, I'm just going to sit here. And not only am I going to enjoy that, but I'm going to let that kind of trigger me within. I'm going to focus on just feeling good inside. I'm not even going to listen to the singer. I'm not going to pay any attention to the audience. I'm not going to pay attention to anybody who's sitting next to me. I'm just going to focus on feeling happiness within inside. And that was an amazing experience after the performance, especially. It was great during the performance. Don't get me wrong. That part was wonderful.
Yeah.
But after the performance is when I was in a group, and the group, kind of reconnected and talked about the event and so forth. And well, first of all, anytime anybody goes through something that's a fun event like that, they're all lit up, right? It's almost like they had drinks or something. They're just the energy is higher. They're all happier. They're all feeling good and so forth. But I also noticed that people were especially more responsive to me than they normally are, even in nice crowd situations. It was a very, we're not talking like slightly different. We're talking like a large difference. You could practically measure it. I didn't have a measuring stick. I didn't know how to measure it. But if there was a measuring stick, I mean, it would have shown a big change. And I thought to myself, that was after sitting for a half an hour listening to a show, just focusing on feeling happy. What would happen if I did that every day?
everything would change.
Everything would change.
Everything would change.
Yeah.
I remember a similar story where I was walking through an airport and I just felt really happy and confident and like proud of myself.
Mm.
And I remember I felt that way and I walked through the airport and everybody noticed me in a
Wow.
very positive way. Like
Yeah.
more than I ever expected, people noticed me.
Yeah.
And then I did the reverse coming home. I was in a
Did you
really
really?
bad, yeah, it wasn't intentional, but I was in a really bad mood and just wanted to get home, and some stuff happened on the trip, and then I was like in sweatpants, and it didn't even really matter what I was wearing or what I looked like because nobody noticed me.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
was completely invisible. And what an experience to have on the before and then the after.
Yeah.
It really solidified, what you're exuding is changing, is rippling out into the world around you.
So what we've accomplished here in 20 minutes of conversation is we've realized we actually have a whole lot more control over not only how we treat ourselves and how we treat others, but how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our experience and how that can impact other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the really big question. Why don't we do that more often? Because we don't. I mean, that's the honest truth.
I don't know. I think we get stuck in the narrative of whatever the narrative is, of our lives, of media, of politics today, of what's going on in the world or what we perceive as going on in the world. We get caught up in those things. And I think we let that take over.
We do.
Yeah. Like you think about how much time people spend in an average day with themselves or checking in on themselves. It's very minuscule.
Maybe not at all.
Maybe not at all. Yeah. I mean, I have a pretty good meditation routine, but even finding 5 minutes, like rebuilding my routine, because I haven't had the same meditation routine over the last couple of years. This is like over the last year I've been implementing it. And I started with 3 minutes. And it was like, man, how do I not have time for 3 minutes? 3 minutes. Like, are you kidding me? You don't have 3 minutes for yourself? But it would be such a struggle when I first started again meditating to have that time for myself. And now it's only 5 minutes. But some days it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have that 5 minutes. And I think that we don't prioritize ourselves and that experience of going within and checking in and just triggering that own happiness. Which, imagine what would change if we just took 5 minutes.
Yeah. A comment came up from Joel when I did the show with him on Monday night. The context was different, but it was basically along the same lines. He was talking about a physical exercise, doing a plank exercise, where you're just holding that position for a minute or two. He says it's the longest minute or two you've ever experienced in your life. But if you're sitting in a conversation with somebody, a minute or two just goes flying by. So the perceptions are entirely different about how long a minute or two is, or 3 minutes in your case.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
it's not surprising that we can have trouble incorporating those 3 minutes, even though, like you said, it's only 3 minutes. How hard is it to imply? Well, apparently it can be really hard if we're just focused on, okay, I got to do this for 3 minutes. I'm locked in here. Oh God, can I do this? I don't know.
It's so painful. It's like 30 seconds in. Are we done yet?
Yeah, right.
No.
But it points to, I think, it comes down to how we decide to do it, how we decide to experience it. Because we do know there are times where 3 minutes can fly right by. So how can we tie in doing a meditation in this case, because that was the immediate goal you were laying out. How can we tie in doing a meditation in a way that doesn't make it seem like it drags on for 5 hours, but rather it seems like the 3 minutes that you experience when you're just having a quick chat or you're listening to a song or something like that?
Well, I think that music is super helpful.
Okay.
To help with that and influence us. I think that there's something really magical about music. When I meditate, I just focus on my breathing And I'm trying to pay attention to that breathing. I breathe in for 5 and then I let go for 5. And just even that simple method of like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that I find that all of a sudden, once I'm focused on that, just intentional breathing, that the time just blows by. It's like, wow, 5 minutes already. I can't believe that happened. And I think maybe it has to do with the story that's going on in our head, the conversation. Like, we're always having conversations, whether they're out loud or not.
Oh, yes.
Always happening in our head of what this conversation with ourselves. Sometimes it's our higher selves. Sometimes I think it's the critic or the ego. Most of the time, it's probably the critic or the ego.
We spend a lot of time in the head. Of course, it's going to be the critic or the ego. I mean,
exactly. Right? So what kind of conversation? Like, if you hop into a meditation and you're like, oh my God, I'm so bored. And what am I doing? And I've got 1,000 things to do. Like, that conversation is going to make it drag on. But what if you just shift that conversation slightly to, how could this help my life? How could this nourish my soul, my mind, my body for the minute that I'm just paying attention to myself? How could I give more love to myself? How could I give more peace or joy or whatever? Just shifting that conversation from what we think we should be doing to being here in this moment with ourselves.
Well, you just started to tap into what I was going to latch onto as my way of finding that perception that makes the time fly past at a better rate. At a rate that doesn't feel like it's 2 miles an hour. But right. I mean, I talked earlier about how I was at a concert and it was an enjoyable concert. I took advantage of that, and I literally spent a half an hour just focusing on how I felt. Now, most days, if I tried to do that, I'd be wiped out in 2 minutes.
Yeah, without the environment, the music,
Right.
Like, if you were to just sit on your couch in your living room and be like, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes, that might be difficult.
And not just meditate. I was trying to meditate on feeling good. I'm feeling happy.
Yeah.
It wasn't just clear my mind. This was, I gotta feel happier here. That's what the goal was. And I was able to do it for 30 minutes. Actually, I think it was longer than that, but I'm saying 30 minutes to be conservative.
Yeah.
Because, with the whole concert, I used the whole concert for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a clue, because what that really means is anytime that we have an enjoyable activity going on, we can just take advantage of that activity and say, you know what? I'm enjoying this activity, especially if it's something that I can just watch, like watching television or something like that. Some program you like watching, something that feels good. And while you're watching, just kind of zone out on the program a little bit and just let the program feed you while you go inside and focus on feeling happy or being kinder or whatever it is that you're trying to work on. I think that's probably the best way I know of to make the whole thing speed up, so it doesn't feel like it's dragging on. Because now we're tied into something that's a higher vibe thing, and higher vibe is what? It's higher vibration, so it's going to move faster.
Yeah. And what if you took that concept and just expanded it a little to focusing on the joy or the happiness of every moment that you're in? And maybe you don't start with every moment, but just the next thing. Like, I'm thinking about my day today. My parents are going to pick us up and we're going to have a drive to the place we're going to, our Christmas Eve dinner. And I love spending time with my parents and my husband. What if I was just to focus on that hour-long car ride with the intention of being in the moment with them and enjoying that experience? And then, there's a lot of things to be stressed about around Christmas. Did I get a good enough present? Did I do this or whatever? Again, all of these things we put on ourselves and pressures, we make assumptions and all of these things. But what are the things that you really love about this season? Maybe it's the laughter of children. Maybe it's the Christmas music or the Christmas lights or whatever it is. And I mean, this is universal. It doesn't have to be Christmas to have this conversation. But since Christmas is stressful, instead of focusing on the things that are stressing you out, what about the magic? What about focusing on the magic and then leaning into that for the time that you're with your family or that you're, going to the place? Enjoy. those things.
I like that. And well, that's especially good, I think, for somebody who doesn't have a good family situation. Lots of people get stressed at Christmas because they're dealing with family for that precise reason.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're stuck in the same house with Uncle Fred, who they can't stand at all. But they have to put up with Uncle Fred over Christmas. So okay, we're gonna be nice to Uncle Fred. I can't wait for tomorrow. One of those kinds of situations.
Yes.
That's also a perfect time to focus, like you're saying, to find what is the joy of the season, where is the magic, so you can take your attention away from Uncle Fred.
Exactly. Yeah, and then more than likely, Uncle Fred won't bother you.
Probably not. Yeah. And there's an interesting reason why. It's because of the vibrational difference. But in terms of how we experience it, it's almost like Uncle Fred could try to intervene. And if we're in the mindset that we're not going to worry about Uncle Fred, we're just going to try to find the joy of the season and just stay with that. He can intervene all he wants, and it won't make any difference. It just doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't connect.
No, it just bypasses you. Actually, a really funny story about our travels just recently. We got delayed in Vancouver on our way home from Hawaii. And we were up for like over 30 hours by the time that we got to Vancouver. Yeah, it was a pretty brutal day. And there's a bunch of people like fighting in the lobby and like whatever. Like obviously people are upset. They want to get home and whatever. And so my husband and I, we were just like, let's just get out of here. Let's just leave and go to the hotel. We can sleep and we can regroup and, whatever. Right. And then the next day our flight was canceled again. And we just decided in that moment, you know what, like maybe there's a bigger plan in all of this and we just don't know what it is. So let's just enjoy our time here. We had Christmas movies that were on the TV and we had nothing to do because, we have a very active farm and there's always something to do when you're at home. But now we're in a different city and with all these gadgets these days. I feel like an old lady saying that, but you just order anything. Like you want liquor, you order it comes to the door. Like you want chips from 7-Eleven, like delivered. Like we didn't have to do anything that we didn't want to. So we had this really nice restorative experience. We had a big jacuzzi tub and got to just hang out. And we were just so happy about going home. We found out when our flight was going to be on Saturday night. But we were in just such a really good space. We had so much fun together and like, okay, well, we had the money to be able to pay for the hotel and, not worry about those things. We're really grateful that we just had the opportunity to have a hotel when there were so many people stranded and it was a decent price and that we got the time together and we got to watch Die Hard and do some of these things that we normally wouldn't do at home on our own right now, at least. We're just buttoning up the farm for winter. And so it was so funny. We walk into the airport, we, check our bags or whatever. And then we're just about to go through security. We've got our boarding passes and there's this big dude. And he's the one checking tickets or whatever to get into security. So he grabs the tickets and without like missing a beat, he looks at me and looks at Nate and says, Nathan. And Nate's like, yeah. And he's like, Jody. Yeah. And he's like, Nathan, you're going to Edmonton and Jody, you're going to Calgary. Did you mean to book your flight for Calgary? And like both of us were just like, no, that's not right. We should both be going to Edmonton. We've been stuck here for several days and we just want to go home. And then he like looked at us and then he burst out laughing. He's like, I can't believe that didn't like exhibit more of a response. You've been waiting for 3 or 4 days to get out of this city. And I thought about it too, like, wow, that could have went wildly different if we weren't in this place of like, we were just peaceful and happy and excited to be going home, obviously, but we just had this aura of us that we were happy. And that's probably why he picked us to, mess with. Yeah. But he was like, I can't believe you guys didn't even get upset. We were like, oh, we just got to go talk to somebody, I guess. But it shows like, something that could have like really torqued somebody up. Yeah. And I mean, I think he was trying to a little bit.
Oh, sure. Yeah. He was pushing buttons. No doubt. He was
trying to push buttons.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and wrong place to push them. Gee. An airport full of stranded passengers. But I mean, he was trying to have fun with it as well. Because people are nasty sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But I just thought it was really funny that we took it as a hilarious joke, that we weren't like, oh my God, what the heck, and freaking out and whatever. We were both without a beat like, oh no, that's wrong. We should both be going to Edmonton. His joke was wasted on us.
But he got some good value out of it, actually.
Yeah,
not the one he had in
totally.
mind, but yeah, but it actually paid off.
Yeah.
Your story actually reminds me of something. Back when I was married, Louise and I actually had a really good relationship for a lot of years. We went through a time that led to the creation of the podcast, and that time was financially devastating and emotionally very challenging as a result. And it ended up that about a year, almost about a year and a quarter after I started the podcast, we ended up moving back to Connecticut from Virginia with no money. we literally just made on the last few cents. There wasn't a whole lot left over. We didn't even have vehicles. I mean, we arrived in a rental vehicle that we had to turn in because we couldn't afford that one either. So we had nothing to drive, you know. It was one of those situations. And I'll never forget, we went to a dealership trying to figure something out, because not only did we not have any money, but our credit was in tatters. It was in a horrible place and so forth. So how are we going to be able to get vehicles? We needed to have two, but we weren't even sure how we could afford one. It was one of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And we went to a dealership and they made us an offer on a vehicle, and I put $100 down on it, but I wasn't really excited about it. And we were going to come back later on, and the promise was, well, if you decide against it, you get your money back, which I ended up doing, by the way. The next day we went to another dealership. It was a Toyota dealership near where we ended up living, and for whatever reason, the staff in that office lashed on to us the way that airport guy lashed on to you and Nate. And they were trying so desperately to find a way to get us not just one, but two cars. Wow. And they kept coming up with ideas and coming up with offers and so forth. And we kept saying, oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much. But we just can't afford it. We just can't do that. The money just isn't there. With the jobs that we had were pretty minimal. I mean, we just didn't have any way to make it work.
Yeah.
And then they went off and they had a meeting. It was the VP, the sales rep, and there was a third person, I think it was a finance person. And by the way, this was in a dealership that was pretty much empty because it was in January and there was going to be a major snowstorm later that afternoon. So literally nobody else was there. It was just us. That was it.
Yep.
So we had all of their attention. So they go off and go do a meeting, and Louise and I are just chatting with ourselves saying, can't worry about this. I mean, we have no idea how any of this is going to pan out. Somehow it's going to work out well. We just have to kind of trust. And we've been saying that all along. And they came back to us and they said, we're blown away by you. And we said, why? They said, because you're being so supportive to each other. I mean, you're going through hell right now. And you're acting like, well, it's just an average everyday occurrence that you're going to get through. We're amazed by it. So we're going to make you an offer that's a once in a lifetime offer. Jody Lynn, they offered us not one, but two car leases at 40% off.
Whoa.
Car dealers don't do that.
No, why would they?
They never do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure the VP of sales got fired for it because I never saw him again after that. I'm pretty sure he got fired for approving it, for signing off on it.
Or maybe he was an angel or something.
But that's how severe it was that, I mean, they just don't do that. And they did it for us simply because of how we were connecting and how we were relating. So fitting into exactly the model you were just describing. When you get yourselves together, when you have a partner and the two of you are working together to just be in the best place you can be, amazing things can happen. Now, there's also the question, what if you're not with a partner? What if you're by yourself? What if you're single? Or perhaps you're even in a bad relationship, which would be even harder. Okay. So now the question becomes, what do you do in that case? See, that's where it gets hard. This is where the rubber meets the road.
I think it's the same thing, because I think that having a partner when you're in alignment amplifies things.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I mean, that could be a positive or a negative. Like if it's a toxic relationship and you guys are both at it, then you're going to amplify that. But I don't think that it is only the way. I mean, it starts with you and going within. So you finding the happiness and the peace, and your partner finding the happiness and peace, and then you're in alignment and you go down that road, whatever the road may be. In your case, the 40% off.
40% off Carly's.
Magic.
Yeah, I can't believe that one.
Exactly. Magic literally happens.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that magic doesn't happen when you're solo, because we're still always connected. We're connected to our higher selves, and then we're connected to everything else, I believe, at least. So if you're already connected, if you can get yourself into alignment, then the rest of the world around you is going to begin to shift. And even toxic relationships or bad relationships, I think that same thing goes. You get yourself into alignment, and either that other person will also get into alignment or will fall away.
And that's exactly it. I'm glad you brought that point up. One thing that listeners of the podcast may remember, we used to have David Strickle on as a co-host for a while, and then you've met him since that time a few times. And David, well, first of all, had a huge influence on the podcast, but he also had an influence on listeners, because a large number of listeners ended up taking his boot camp. And it's a fairly pricey boot camp, but a lot of people signed up for it and got a lot of value out of it. And I went through it as well. One of the things that he mentions when you go through the boot camp, and by the way, what he has now is restructured. They don't have a boot camp anymore. They have something similar, but it's a different kind of a deal. But basically, they're studying the same ideas. But he made the point that it's a very common thing for somebody to go through the boot camp or the modern equivalent of it, and to find that their relationships change. Even marriages and permanent long-time relationships can fall apart, because the partner who's going through the program is getting higher and higher vibe, and the other partner isn't. And I remember hearing him say that when I was going through the program, and I thought to myself, oh yeah, that probably does happen, and just dismissing the whole thing. And then a year and a half later, my ex-wife left me.
Things fall away.
Yeah. I mean, and I didn't make that connection right away. It wasn't until he came on the show again as a guest about, I'm going to say 9 months later, that he pointed that out. And I finally realized, oh my God, he's right. I hadn't made that connection, but that's exactly what happened.
Yes. My very first personal development seminar that I ever went to, my dad had taken all of the series of seminars. It was called The Pursuit of Happiness, and he had done all of them. And then he encouraged all of us kids to go. And I remember my brother went with his wife, and me and my one sister. My dad was like, you really need to go. You really need to go. And I kept delaying and delaying and delaying. And looking back, I knew that going to that seminar would change me and therefore change my relationship. And I wasn't ready for that.
Really?
Yeah. And it was within about the same time frame, about a year and a half, maybe even less than that. I want to say it was a year and a half, but regardless, it wasn't that long after. And my boyfriend at the time, the relationship that I had, which was very toxic, it ended.
That actually has, like most things, it has both a positive and a negative. I mean, the negative is the relationship ended. The positive is that the relationship ended.
Yeah.
It's both.
It was both. Yeah. Yeah.
And in the way that it ended, it basically demonstrated to you not only how the whole thing works, but it also kind of shows us that if we change our own inside stuff, things do line up. No matter what.
People are afraid of that. Oh, I'm going to outgrow this beautiful life I already have, or whatever. And that's not the exciting. I understand that can be scary. The thing that I always cling to is that I don't know the entire plan. I only know what's in front of me, this piece. And I wouldn't have chosen poorly when I came here. So I know that the plan is great. And if I'm not seeing great through my eyes at this moment, it's only a matter of time.
So that's how you give yourself a little grace and say, just give it a moment.
Exactly. Just let whatever's happening happen, like the delay and something coming, or, you know, the relationship breakdown, or whatever it is, somebody leaving. You'll understand eventually. I don't know. I always look back at all the hard things I've ever been through, and I see it. I get, oh, I needed to go through that to become the person that I am today, to think the way that I do, to see the world the way that I do today, to feel the things that I've been through so deeply.
Well, very clearly, just from what you described, having that preconception, that belief that you came into this world knowing that it was going to be a good experience. I mean, I remember how you said it, but that's pretty much where it added up to. So that was kind of like the anchor point that made all the rest of your experience work, because you believed that was true.
Yeah.
So it raises the question: how did you come to that belief? How did you come by the idea that you really were in a good life cycle, and that you would never come into a life cycle to set yourself up to experience it badly?
Well, I think there's a couple things in this. I think that good and bad are definitions that we create. so what is good and what is bad, I've learned that it's more, it just is. And then allow whatever needs to come through instead of classing it as good or bad. Because the things I thought were really bad, you know, like getting out of that toxic relationship, you know, like it was bad. I had that view of it was really bad and it was really hard to go through. Now I look back and think it was a blessing. And I'm so grateful that I went through all of those things. And that seems to be a theme with a lot of people that we talk to on this show.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, I think that I learned somewhere along my spiritual journey that about reincarnation, and that we continue to come back to this place, or we can continue to come back to this place. And I've always felt like a really old soul. So I have this feeling or perception that I've been around this block called Earth a few, maybe 100,000 times. I don't know, a lot. And with that comes the idea that you go to a green room and you choose your life and what it's going to look like and everything else before you say yes to it. And that feels accurate to me, or feels correct. And if I chose all of these things, and I've been here more than once, and I'm wise, let's say, why would I ever choose bad?
You've touched on something that I think matches up with what I've believed, because I was never really clear on whether or not I chose to come here until very recently. In the last few years, I came to the conclusion that yes, I did. I'm still kind of on the fence on this whole soul contract thing, but at least I was willing to admit that I came here by choice. So that, you know, I got past that part. And in the process of coming to that conclusion, I also realized, kind of like what you did, that I must have come here a lot of times. So like I said, why on earth would I set myself up to experience pain just to be painful?
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
I mean, I would think it'd be exactly the opposite. I would want to be avoiding pain, if anything.
Yeah. But I think something that I've also learned too, on that other side, the feelings, the pain and the meanings that we have earth side fall away. So pain means something different. And as we go back to something I said earlier, of all the feelings being like the color spectrum, they're all there, and they're all opportunities for us to deepen those feelings, you know, have a new experience, whatever it is. I think that there's a purpose to it. So when you're in that green room, I think anyway, you're not thinking about, oh, that's going to be really painful. You're thinking about, that's going to be really transformative. That's going to be really deep stuff. And I mean, I think that being wise and coming here multiple different times, I think that you would say, okay, well, I'm up for the tough challenges. let's go. And that's, I think, the culmination of my life. I've been through a lot of really hard things this time around. And what a beautiful opportunity to learn and to grow and to love all of those things, and love so much myself and others so much deeper because of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's exactly right. In fact, you're reminding me of a meme I saw published recently. I have this background, of course, with the universe behind me. The universe has my back. That's the idea behind it. And the meme pointed to like a single star. Like I'm trying to point at a single star right now.
Yeah.
And the meme was saying, that's you trying to figure out how to make your mortgage payment.
This itty bitty thing. Yeah. And I think the universe is way more magical than we can comprehend, because again, we're living from the place of the mind, what we've seen, what we've heard, what we've been taught. And there's so much more than just that. So much more.
So when you get that perspective, that's one of the best ways I know of to shift that really bad experience, really good experience idea around. Because like you said, it's not really good or really bad. It's transformative.
Yeah, it just is.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity, I think. And sometimes they're tough opportunities. Let's be real. Sometimes they're tough.
Oh, very tough. Yeah.
And going back to where we first started with like happiness and joy, some of the darkest moments led me to the most unbridled joy.
So give us an example.
After I'd had my first ectopic pregnancy, it was pretty dark.
Yeah, that would be pretty dark.
Yeah, I was wrestling with, how do you lose something that you never really had? Like how can you be allowed to feel grief over that? And nobody quite, like, I think people understand, but in that space, it's like nobody understands because they didn't feel the differences. They didn't see any changes. It was just me. I knew, that things were different. And the first one was very scary because they didn't catch it. And, they were going to send me home with some pills that just would have taken my life. I wouldn't have had an opportunity to get to care quick enough. And thank God that, one of the doctors was like, yeah, I don't really feel right about that, and sent me to a different hospital, which saved my life.
Wow.
And, but when we went to this other hospital, they're like, oh yeah, you're having an ectopic pregnancy. And like, we're admitting you right now. You're going into emergency surgery. And I'd never been in surgery before. Like, I think for my wisdom teeth, they put me under, but that's a completely different experience.
Right.
And I just remember going into surgery, I was stable enough to wait until 7 a.m. So, my husband had left, we had our dog at home, and he was coming back to pick me up. But as you're being wheeled to the operating room, I was terrified.
Sure.
Just not knowing what was going to happen. Like, how am I going to feel? And like, am I going to die? Like, what's happening here? And I was like hyperventilating, crying because I was so scared. And I remember waking up in that state after it was all over and being very, very confused that, like, how am I still feeling this? Like, am I dying? Did I die? What is happening? Like, how do I feel the exact same way as when you put me to sleep? And I guess that's very common. You just kind of get stuck there and stay in that spot. Yeah. But it seemed to stay for, a week or 2 weeks after that point. I would just wake up in the morning and feel that exact same, like, guttural feeling, and like my throat is closing off, like that fear taking over my entire system, and I would just start bawling. And I'm not really a crier, so that was really difficult. So there's a lot of emotion around all of this. And even though I practice and I preach that you need to feel your emotions, and like everything is a lesson and whatever, when you're in it, it's harder. So for me, I was trying to remember those things and focus on the positive and do the inner work that I needed to and everything else. But one thing was missing. I was terrified to feel the grief, the pain, the depression, like the full weight of the darkness. I would go, a baby step in and then be like, I'm good. I've done the work. Just let me know. I want to do it. And I realized when a friend reached out to me, she said, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm good. And she's like, no, like no bullshit. How are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm on this precipice of like this hard line of, I can see the darkness and it is surrounding me. And I'm trying really hard to be positive and, whatever. And she said, you need to feel all of it. And I was like, I can't because I will get lost and I'll never come back. I'll never come back from this. And she said, don't worry, we've got you. Like, you've got a lot of people around you that are watching you and protecting you. And like, if you leave in any way, like, we will catch you. Like, don't worry. You have the space and the protection to feel whatever you need to feel. Like, you're not in this alone. And I felt like that was the ultimate permission to dive in. Yeah. Yeah. So I dove in from there, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to feel all of it. And it was so crazy because I remember like laying on the couch and like going in and being like, all right, let's do this. Let's feel all of it. And it was so big in my mind, and the feeling and everything, the colors that I could see, it all collapsed so quickly. And I felt all of it so intensely throughout my body. And then like that, it was like this beautiful, bright, white light of joy. And it's crazy because I also remember my sister-in-law, she had a miscarriage a couple of months before that, the year before that, sorry, right before we got married. And then I remember her pain, and it was in this instant that I'm recalling these things. I remember sitting to have lunch with her and her talking about her experience and how awful it was. And then I remember seeing her baby for the first time and with her. And I remember looking at her face, and it was the recognition for me of, oh, she doesn't even remember, or it doesn't even, like, that pain, that strife, that huge thing that she went through is about this big, so insignificant in this moment.
Right.
So that's what that white light was that realization that this moment is just so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And then I felt joy.
Do you recall what your perception was about how long that time period was? You went through the really dark thing, and then the dark thing kind of disappeared and you got replaced by the light. What was the duration from your perspective?
Well, I think that I drug it out at the very beginning. I was like, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to go deeper. So that part of like the avoidance, it was weeks, maybe. I wouldn't say it was a month. I would say it was probably a couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, somewhere in there. And then when my friend had said that, and I felt like I had permission to feel all of it and not worry about getting lost in the darkness, it was minutes.
Like, that's the part that I like to draw that out, because I don't think that many people, when they hear stories like this, really grasp at how short that time is.
It's so short. It was so incredibly short. I was so afraid. It was like jumping off the edge of a cliff. And before you know it, like, the water was like the joy and the turning over of a new experience. It was so
the experience I had the first time that I did that kind of a routine, and being absolutely blown away at how quickly it went.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was the avoidance part.
Yeah, right. Well, there was a part of me that literally said, what, that's it?
Right? Like, oh, I was worried about this. Like,
that's what I was so upset about.
Yeah. I was so afraid of this. That was it. That's all. But yeah, it was like maybe minutes. It might have even been seconds.
There's a part of me that said, that's all you got, really?
Right? I was afraid of that. It's really humbling, I think. You're like,
it shows what we can get afraid about. I mean, what we get afraid about really, in most cases, are not saber-toothed tigers.
No.
In fact, I'm having trouble remembering a saber-toothed tiger in my life. Now, I have been through some stuff that was absolute hell. I mean, and the first one that comes to my mind is the top of the list. It was the night that I got the note from Louise that she was leaving. That one was the worst night of my life. Yeah. And I can't honestly tell you that I successfully went through all that in 5 minutes. That's not the way that worked.
No.
It just doesn't. But what I can tell you is that I did somehow, well, part of it I know why. It's because I had friends, good friends like yourself, people that I could call who, and one of the best things about having co-hosts who are life coaches and therapists is like, oh my God, I got like the best people to possibly call on. So I call I picked a few select from the list and called them, and they were giving me all the right advice and all the right help and so forth. So that helped a lot. But what that whole set of activities also did is that it reminded me, here are all the things I've been learning from doing the podcast. Here are all the things that I've learned from talking to all these great people over the years. Let's see if I can apply them. I can't say that night I was able to work completely through the pain. What I can tell you, though, is that I worked substantially through the pain in a way that made it possible for me to move through the whole experience a whole lot quicker than most people would have expected.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are people who go through a separation and divorce like that, and it just absolutely haunts them and tears them apart for years.
Yeah.
Well, the tearing apart, that part lasted about 3 days for me.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So honest.
Not that there was nothing afterward. There was plenty. I mean, it'll be 3 years in February, so it's been a while. I still have experiences that crop up that remind me of the pain of it. Not nearly like it was that first night, not even close, but they still crop up. Yeah. But the vast majority, I literally went through about 90% of it in that first 2-week period. Mm-hmm. And it was because I was trying to apply this process of feeling it through, trust the abundance, find your joy, all that kind of stuff. And most of the time I couldn't find it. Most of the time I couldn't get there, but I could do it some.
Yeah.
I could do it some.
And little by little, you build it up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it ultimately made me a whole lot stronger, because now I know next time something like that happens, I can get through it quicker. Mm-hmm. Will I get through it instantly? Maybe not. Mm-hmm. Probably not.
Yeah.
But I'll get through it a whole lot quicker.
Yeah. Well, and I've always looked back on the tough stuff that I've been through, and like, you can't take me down. Like, I've already walked through some of the shittiest things that there are to experience, and I'm still standing, and I'm better for it. And I'm a good person, and I'm happy. So no matter what happens, I can make it through.
And I'm so happy you're my friend. I love that fact so much.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we're friends too.
Great.
This is a daily dose of happy, and it is true every week.
It's a great thing to share on Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas to you and to Nate and to all your family and friends.
Yes, and Merry Christmas to you too.
Yeah, and we'll be reconnecting next on New Year's Eve. So we're going to round out the year.
That's right. We'll have to get some champagne and pop
something. Do some celebrating, right?
Exactly. Start the celebrating. That's right.
Sounds great. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you, podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.